And gentlemen, we have a lot of injuries to talk about. I mean, obviously, we have Christian McCaffrey, we have Dalvin Cook, we have some big name players. But before we get to anything, I need to give a massive announcement. Okay, so as always, I mean, right now, if you sign up for Underdog Fantasy with promo code FLOCK, they will match your first deposit dollar for dollar up to 100. On Underdog Fantasy, you can opt into some real money best ball drafts, which y'all have seen us doing on the live stream. Also, you can check out all these player props. And if previously in the past, you have signed up for Underdog Fantasy, whether that was earlier this week, last month, a year ago, you should be able to see that this Cooper Kupp special line is live. Now, I've had some people in the comment section telling me that they are not seeing the special line. So please, if you are having issue finding the Cooper Kupp special line, it'll be at the very top of your player prop section. However, if you cannot find that and you are sure you used promo code FLOCK in the past, you need to make sure that you reach out to me. You can find my email address in the description of this live stream. Just email me, say, hey, Mason, I used promo code FLOCK. I'm sure that I did. I used it a month ago. I used it 2 months ago. I used it earlier this week. If you used it in the past, please make sure you reach out to me if you still have not found that. But that should be it. Let's go through. Let's dive into some of the news that we have. Our first one is going to be TJ Hockenson. We have a lot of players to talk about for the Detroit Lions here. We are looking at the Detroit Lions as a team that's been pretty damn good, at least on the offensive side of the ball so far this season. Jared Goff, maybe make the argument he hasn't been great from a real life perspective, but hell, he's putting up fantasy points. And I think a large reason for this is you have an elite level offensive line in Detroit. You have TJ Hockenson, you have Amon-Ra St. Brown, you have DeAndre Swift, where Jared Goff has been very appealing. But looking at the injury list that we have for the Detroit Lions, TJ Hockenson is going to play, but we know DeAndre Swift not playing with a shoulder. This was known coming into the week. I think you can fire up Jamal Williams, even if Craig Reynolds should see a respectable role this week. I think Craig Reynolds gets on the field in obvious passing down scenarios. But outside of that, I think Jamal Williams is going to be a must-start guy. And then also looking at this, you have Amon-Ra St. Brown missing this week. So the accumulation of TJ Hockenson for sure playing, DeAndre Swift missing, Amon-Ra St. Brown missing, in my opinion, makes it where TJ Hockenson is actually a viable play at tight end this season, despite him being extremely disappointing going forward. So make sure you play TJ Hockenson. Do not play Jared Goff. I think Jared Goff is going to be significantly less exciting knowing how many injuries we are seeing across his roster, but go get Hockenson in your lineups. And regarding DJ Chark as well as Josh Reynolds, both of these wide receivers are dealing with their own injuries as well. I probably would prefer DJ Chark. Sounds like he is going to be officially good to go, where Joshua Reynolds is kind of on the fence right now. But in reality, I wouldn't be that excited about playing these Detroit guys. Now, our next update, Michael Gallup is going to be good to go. Now, with Michael Gallup, not saying this to tell you to go start Gallup. I mean, I drafted him in a lot of best ball leagues when we were getting a massive injury discount, when people were telling me, oh, Mason, you're an idiot for drafting Michael Gallup here. He's not going to be playing until week 8, yada, yada, yada. Well, it's week 4. He is going to be in there, but you cannot start him. Can't start him because we have CeeDee Lamb and Cooper Rush under center, even if Cooper Rush has been great so far. I don't know. And we are also going to have Dalton Schultz possibly playing this week as well. Now, with both these players coming in, I don't necessarily want to start them right away. Maybe if Dalton Schultz has a great week this week, then we look to play him the following. But primarily, I want to look at these two guys being active and say, lower your expectations for Tony Pollard. If you like the role that Tony Pollard has as a pass catcher, it's probably going to get scaled back, and also lower your expectations with CeeDee Lamb. I mean, if I'm looking at my rankings this week, we still do have CeeDee Lamb ranked as a player that you should start. I have CeeDee Lamb ranked as a high-end wide receiver too, but don't think that just because he balled out last Monday night for everybody to watch that you're going to get the same level of production from Lamb. Next guy, J.K. Dobbins. J.K. Dobbins obviously dealing with the knee injury at the beginning of this season. And then he randomly popped up with a chest injury this week. Sounds like removed from the injury report. Sounds like he's going to be good to go. But in a brutal matchup against Buffalo, I do not want to start J.K. Dobbins, but I do want to give an update with the injury. And now, obviously, you don't have Foster Moreau rostered. You don't have any plans to start him. But him being out is going to be a big deal for Darren Waller, as Darren Waller hasn't seen nearly as many targets, nearly as many routes run as what we are used to in previous seasons. But now that role is going to get bumped back up to what you come to expect. Also, we have no Hunter Renfrow in this game either. So the departure of both the backup tight end and Renfrow, this is going to open up a decent amount of snaps, a decent amount of targets available for pass catchers in Las Vegas. I know you definitely had a league-winning performance from Mac Hollins last weekend. I know you're probably excited to go through and start Mac. Don't do it. Don't do it. Just raise your expectations with Darren Waller. Now, our next guy is going to be David Montgomery. David Montgomery not playing. We already knew this. Khalil Herbert is a must-start running back this week. You have the guaranteed workload. It is going to be a very bad offense. So I think we should start him, but keep your expectations capped. I mean, with Khalil Herbert, he had more rushing yards last week than David Montgomery's ever seen in his entire NFL career. Now, Keenan Allen missing as well. This is scary. Keenan Allen practiced Wednesday. He was practicing Thursday, left the field with the trainer on Thursday due to this hamstring injury. Looks like he clearly re-aggravated it. If he clearly re-aggravated it, I think we need to be lowering our expectations here with Keenan Allen on the timetable for return. So this is my opinion. It's going to make Mike Williams a must-start guy. Jalen Guyton's going to be missing this game as well. So I think that you could look to play Joshua Palmer if you would like. But now our usual updates we have with the Giants. You have no Kadarius Toney, no Wan'Dale Robinson. We know that you did end up seeing Sterling Shepard with the official torn Achilles earlier this week. Devastating, very sad. Sterling Shepard looked like he was a great wide receiver. Looked like he was doing great at the beginning of the season, coming off the torn Achilles. You wanted to root for the guy. But I think at this point, we have to continue to assume that Saquon Barkley is probably the number one option in New York. And y'all could tell that we actually went through and we took an under on the Richie James fantasy point total on Underdog, which is about 10.5 points in a half PPR format. But now Gabriel Davis practiced on Friday, still technically questionable, told the media that he was going to be going out there and playing. And Gabriel Davis is someone that I think you need to put in your starting lineup. You need to start Gabriel Davis. Could not be a better matchup against the Baltimore Ravens. Now going over to Tampa, looks like both Chris Godwin and Julio Jones are going to be game time decisions. I am more confident that Julio Jones is going to play. Julio Jones over the past 2 weeks would go through the same routine in Tampa. He wouldn't practice on Wednesday. He wouldn't practice on Thursday. He would get in a limited session on Friday and there'd be a game time decision and he wouldn't play. Well, this week, he practiced pretty much every single day. He practiced Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. So I think Julio Jones is probably going to be good to go on Sunday night. Chris Godwin practiced on Wednesday. Then he took a rest day on Thursday, whatever that means. But he was back in practice on Friday. Don't want to start either wide receiver. And what's very painful as well is this is the Sunday night game for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So by the time you have to submit your starting lineup at noon on Sunday, you're probably not going to have all the information. I would look to avoid starting anybody in Tampa, not named Mike Evans or Leonard Fournette, but Tom Brady should be a much better option now as well, getting these wide receivers back. Now, for the Britain game, we are going to have Alvin Kamara. Good to go, in my opinion. I know Alvin Kamara been on the injury report with this rib injury. Last week, we saw Alvin Kamara, 15 carries, 7 targets. Not worried about Kamara. Please play Alvin Kamara. Michael Thomas is going to be out as well. Maybe that means more targets going over to Kamara. Looks like Jarvis Landry is probably going to be playing after practicing back on Thursday. And we know that you're going to have Andy Dalton as the starting quarterback here for the New Orleans Saints. I know a lot of people are saying, okay, well, Andy Dalton's going to favor the check down. He's going to be better for someone like Jarvis Landry than he would be for Chris Olave. However, in my opinion, don't overthink it. You play Chris Olave. Chris Olave is going to be the wide receiver with an insane ceiling with 26 targets over the past 2 weeks, even if you don't love the fit with Andy Dalton. But Dalvin Cook's going to play. I know it's a bad matchup. With Dalvin Cook, maybe you expect a slightly larger role for Alexander Mattison. But if Dalvin Cook's active, you play Dalvin Cook. No need to overthink it. Boston Scott's going to be out, so I know this means that some people are going to be a little bit more excited about Miles Sanders. Well, maybe you could be. But it sounds like they're just going to go, hey, Trey Sermon, yeah, Boston Scott's out. We need you today, buddy. So it looks like instead of giving Miles Sanders a larger role, instead of giving Kenneth Gainwell a larger role, they're throwing Trey Sermon. I don't even want to talk about it. Now, Christian McCaffrey is Officially questionable. We don't have any updates with CMC. And if you go and look at my updated running back rankings with Christian McCaffrey, I still had CMC as a top 5 running back. And to be honest with you, I think that you could easily make the argument, Mason, you're a clown. You got to move Christian McCaffrey down to being ranked as a low-end running back 2 if he's active. Maybe that we assume that he is in a slightly smaller role. The primary reason that I ranked him inside the top 5 is saying, if Christian McCaffrey is good to go, if Christian McCaffrey is going to be playing on Sunday, put him in your starting lineup. I don't care about anything else. I don't care what we've had from CMC this year. I don't care about this injury. If he's active, you start him. Please do not overthink it. Now, the interesting part is, if Christian McCaffrey's inactive, do you play Donta Foreman, Hook'em Lawrence? Do you play Chuba Hubbard? I don't know. I would have no idea who the handcuff running back is. In reality, I would assume that Donta Foreman and Chuba Hubbard end up splitting the backfield in Carolina to the point where neither guy is actually viable. If I had to put my money somewhere, I would go with Donta Foreman, of course, hook them horns, but maybe I'm a little bit biased there. Now, I think that should be it for the injury updates. Let me remind everyone. So on Underdog Fantasy, go sign up with the link in the live chat, the link in the description of the video. When you sign up today, you will be getting a 100% deposit match up to $100. You can check out all these player props. However, if you have used Underdog in the past with promo code FLOCK, used it earlier this week, last month, the month before, the year before, if you have used promo code FLOCK and you do not see this Cooper Kupp special line at the very top of your player prop page, I'm going to try to sort this out for you. I know there's a handful of people that have had a hard time finding this, even though it sounds like most people have this, no issue. But what I need is you to send me an email. You can find my email address in the description of this live stream and say, hey, Mason, I signed up for promo code FLOCK around this time. Give me an estimate about the time you signed up with email address johnny12345@gmail.com. And I still don't have the Cooper Kupp line. That way, when I have that, I can look into it for you and I can try to get that fixed ASAP before the Monday night game. But that should be it. Thank you again. I do appreciate you all. I hope you have a great night, and I will be live a little bit later tonight answering all your fantasy football questions. I'll be live super early tomorrow morning as well before the Minnesota Vikings and the New Orleans Saints game. So thank you again. I truly do appreciate you. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I hope I get to see you in the live stream tonight or tomorrow morning.